Hello, 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 hello. Good evening. Good evening, all. Check test.
Hello, hello.
Okay, good. We got sound. We got video. We got folks in the chat room. Awesome to have everybody here tonight. Um, got our old pal Tom Downey's in, as well as food porn chef and Bernard McIerney. I guess that's how you say that. McIerney? 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 Hi, Bernard. Great to have you in tonight. And then also John is in from Michigan. Hi, John. I say Michigan just to be funny. It's Michigan. Yes, I know how to say it. As usual, I try to kill a few minutes, let a few more people connect. So I'll sit here and scratch my back real quick. Oh, it's like Mac and Ernie. Mac and Ernie. Okay, Ernie. Excellent. Thank you. Um, Bernard's here tonight because he has a question about an intermittent on his TV in his RV, and they're a pain in the butt to diagnose. So I'm going to give you my rules of thumb on how I do that in just a bit. But let me clear up here real quick. Um, Quick update on Dad. For those of you that are new to the chat, my dad fell and broke his hip. Well, I've been here 11 weeks today, and thankfully it looks like he will be home a week from today. So looking forward to getting him home here, getting him settled in, getting his home health and PT and all that put together, so I can get back to my house. I'm freely admitting that I'm homesick. I'd like to get home, and even if it is smoky. But so that's it might be an issue that I might not make it next Tuesday night. We'll see. I think we'll probably be in okay shape, and I should be able to do it. Just for the sound purposes, I may have to move into a different room, but we'll get her there. Hello, Jeff Ripplinger from Denver. Great to have you in the chat tonight. I lived in Denver, and I don't, I loved living in Denver. I lived right downtown at 17th and Glenarm, which is a block up from the Hard Rock Cafe, if you know downtown Denver at all. I loved it there. I was right on the Denver Mall, right in downtown, a block away from the tallest building in Colorado. So yeah, 55 stories, something like that. But yeah, I really liked living downtown. Hello, Sue Kelly. Great to have you just stop by and say hi. We're glad you're in the room. And yeah, Dad's doing better. It looks like he'll probably be home maybe a week from today, or fingers are crossed. Okay, so we got a few folks in. I don't want to hold things up too much. We'll take a moment of silence here to remember Charlie Watts. Uh, Charlie Watts was the drummer for the Rolling Stones, and he passed away today. So we'll just sit here and remember our most favorite Rolling Stones song. I'd love to roll one right now, but you can't always get what you want, but you usually get what you need. Um, YouTube's algorithm would flag that in 2 seconds and uh, give me a copyright strike, and I try to avoid those at all costs. So try and sit here for a minute and remember your favorite Rolling Stone song. Okay, so I'll get to you in a minute, Tom. Okay, Sue, I'll go ahead. Sue has a quick question. She says, out of curiosity, do battery fumes go up or do they stay low on the ground? Both. But generally, the battery gas that's coming off, hydrogen sulfide, H2S, is still a little bit lighter than air at O2. Well, an air, of course, is a mixture of gases, right? It's oxygen, nitrogen. But I believe the hydrogen sulfide is heavier than air, and so it would lay close to the ground. And that's what's boiling off on a battery when you smell it charging. But they do go up because when the when the battery it's charging, it's getting hot, right? And that hot puts energy into the gas itself, which makes it expand, which makes it lighter than air. And so yeah, it will raise. And that's why you can smell it. Typically, if you're standing around a battery that's charging lead acid battery, you might get a little whiff of that battery charging smell, which is hydrogen sulfide. And so it does both, Sue. Eat Travel Happy, awesome to have you in tonight. Tom, I will talk with you in a second. Okay, so Bernard uh, McInerney is new, and he dropped a comment on the video from last week about an intermittent he's having with his TV. And I'm so happy that you're in the chat tonight, Bernard, because that way I can ask you questions and maybe we can figure this out. So let me start with, when is an intermittent? Is it like when you're on pedestal power? What I mean, utility power, power from the RV park, or when you're on your inverter, or when you're running a generator? Um, because that could be a number of things. Um, if it's when you're on the pedestal, it's still intermittent. That's a wacky thing, and that probably then is the TV. The second question I have for you, Bernard, is what kind of a TV is it? I'm assuming it's probably some type of an LCD, but tell me about how old the TV is. And then while we're waiting for him to answer, we'll go back and pick up a few comments. Tom bought a new smart shunt. Okay, it's 712, and well, the lead isn't long enough. I've got to splice a piece into it. Yeah, fortunately, that's not Cat 5 type wire, so you don't have to worry about twisted pairs or anything like that. Um, but that's kind of a drag. Sam Jones. Okay, Sam, hi, welcome. Glad to have you in tonight. He had all the fuses replaced on his '04 Newmar, and now the front power shade does not work. It did prior. Interesting. Um, Sam, those shades, um, when you say the front power shade, you mean the shade in the front of the RV, right? You mean, do you have a power shade at the front of your RV, or are you talking about your awning? Clarify that. Yeah, there you go, Tom, and that's great. Battery fumes or hydrogen sulfide, because the bilge in a boat, as he says, that's why they vent the bilge prior to starting a boat, is to purge out any explosive gases, and hydrogen sulfide is explosive. Okay, so Bernie says it's on pedestal power, and so when you say intermittent, then Bernie, I hope it's okay to call you Bernie, that it just won't turn on sometimes, or it turns on and then turns itself off in the middle of watching it. Okay, so Peter Winter is one of our Nevada watchers, and he's needing some help on how to remove the carpet from under the slide out. Okay, I'll see if I can answer that. Bernie's fine, thank you. Okay, okay. Bernard answers back on his TV intermittent problem, and he says it goes for the first day, then it ends. It's less than 2 years. It is a Vizio flat screen, and so I'm assuming if you leave it turned off for a while, it works again. Um, Answer that one for me then, and thank you, Bernie. Okay, I'm going to go back and pick up a few comments here. Sam, looking for your answer. Hi, Carl Jones. Hey, great to have you in, Carl. Haven't heard from you for a while. I'm happy to have you in the chat with us tonight. Okay, Peter. So the way you can get that out is I'm assuming you're having trouble um, uh, because the carpet goes in and underneath the edge of the slide out, and you can't get it out that way. It could be maybe the rollers on the slide out are preventing it. And there is a way to basically jack those wheels up a little bit, and it varies from coach to coach. You have a mini Winnie, so I would go out to irv2.com, Go to the Mini Winnie forum on there. I know there's one there for Mini Winnebagos, and ask that question there, because what you essentially need to do is you need to probably pick up the slide a little bit. Now, I know on my Newmar, the way to do that is that you take a 2x6, which happens to be about the right size, and you go outside, and about the time it's ready to set down, you put a 2x6 in there, which which stops it from sitting on the floor. So the way the Newmars are is they're almost flush to the floor. There's maybe 3/8 of an inch difference between the slide floor and the floor in the RV, and so it comes out and then it kind of goes down a ramp and sets down so that it's flush. And there's a way to hold that up as it sits down instead of rolling down the ramp. A 2x6, if memory serves me correct, I think it's a 2x6, but you put it in there a special way, and it keeps that slide from coming all the way down. And I'm assuming, excuse me, that you're having trouble getting the carpet out from underneath the rollers and the slide itself. That's the only way I could think of, because otherwise you got to try to get into that retaining strip and trying to reach under the slide. There's probably not enough room, but there's got to be a way to jack that slide up a little bit to get underneath that to change that carpet out. And I don't have first-hand experience with it, but again, I'd go over to rv2.com, go to the owners forums, find the Mini Winnies, and ask the question in there. Certainly somebody over there will know how to do that. I apologize for my lack of experience with Mini Winnies. Okay, so the front shade. Okay, so maybe they knocked a wire loose. That would have probably been if you have an '04, right, Sam? I think you do. That would have been an aftermarket shade, and I know that on my '04 there was wiring in place for electric shades and stuff like that, and all that wiring came down and just in my rig, because I don't have the electric shade up front, just sat there. So it sounds to me like if you had all the fuses changed, they might have knocked a wire loose. That would be the first thing I would look for. Is that there may be like a terminal plugged onto a fuse block um, under the dash there, or I mean, excuse me, the fuse block in at least in the Freightliner. I'm sure it is a Spartan too. Is in the bay outside underneath the driver's seat. But it sounds to me like something got knocked loose, and that would be where I would start to look. Thanks, Sue Kelly. We'll chat with you soon. I'm gonna. Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh. I've been in Josie RV Journey. I follow them on Instagram. They've had quite a nice trip. Go over and check them out on Instagram. He says, "Hello, my friend. Our cross country trip was interrupted due to engine failure. That's not good. We went to get gas, and before we arrived, the engine shut down. It would start, but it would not go far. Left RV in Virginia. Ouch. Did the engine fail? Boy, I know that pain. In 2017, I dropped the engine out of my Dutch Star, and that was a almost $30,000 uh, problem. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? Live at the Freightliner dealership in Cedar Rapids, Iowa? So yeah, that wasn't great. I am so sorry to hear that. Okay, Bernie, I can almost tell you what it is then. Bernie comes back. We're talking about Bernie's intermittent problem with his TV. It can go for an hour or so and then goes away. So I think probably what it is you got something getting hot, and in those TVs, especially if memory serves me, I think it is the Vizios. But I have a plasma TV, a very old plasma TV that had this very problem, and the power supply is getting hot, and there's a component on the power supply getting hot. It's probably a capacitor, and that capacitor, when it gets too hot, it will go to an open condition, which means that there is a short in the capacitor. Now, it's not a short like a spark you would see when you plug something in wrong or something like that. But if it's 2 years old, you're probably out of warranty. Um, you might find somebody. Here's the problem, okay? And I don't want to get too far off track here, but here's the problem with electronics today. They're built to be thrown away. I had a friend of mine, actually, it was a guy that worked for me, that did a lot of eBay stuff. He was always on eBay selling things. And he went on vacation one time and he had a bunch of eBay stuff that he had to sell, but he took it on vacation with him. When he got there, he realized he had forgot to buy bring his printer, so he couldn't print labels or anything like that. So he went and bought a cheap printer, HP probably, did his business, and left it in his hotel room. I mean, people in electronics, you're just built to just want to throw them away. Or there's the whole right to repair thing that's going on, right? And if you don't know what that is, the right to repair is that a lot of these manufacturers, Apple being one of the most prominent, but John Deere from agricultural equipment, there's a lot of the other agricultural equipment companies have proprietary software that you have to get attached to. Let's talk about a tractor for a minute. Something as simple as a tractor. RVs are getting this way too, by the way, the newer ones. But you have to have special software just to be able to go in and read and understand what this machine is doing. And that limits how much work that a third party can do on it. Like, most farmers want to fix their own equipment for the savings as a cost savings is the reason why. And then also a lot of times it has to do with the time. If they're in the middle of a harvest and something breaks down, they can't wait 5 days or 10 days for a technician to come out and work on their tractor because they have to have special software. So there's a big amount of work being done in Congress right now to change some of that, change the laws on some of that, so that these manufacturers, Apple, John Deere, I mean, there's a number of them like this that are locking people out of being able to work on their own equipment, and so they're calling it right to repair. Essentially, I think they're going to force the manufacturers to allow third-party entities to work on their equipment. And you can't blame them. The manufacturers do it because then they've got that locked up, right? Then they know that person who has this $300,000 tractor or $300,000 motorhome has to go to the Freightliner dealer or the Spartan dealer or the John Deere dealer or to the Apple store or a qualified Apple repair place to get your phone fixed. No, it's not an Apple. Sorry, this is Samsung, but you get my point. Eat Travel Happy says, got caught in an Iowa storm tonight, almost lost our whole awning. Bent one arm really bad. Is it possible just to replace the arm? Yes, it is. And depending upon your manufacturer, you can go to the manufacturer's website, put in the model number. So like Dometic, okay, Dometic is a good one. You can just go to the Dometic website and put in the part number for your awning, the model number, and they'll come back. And it's tricky with arms. You need to know the length when you're replacing those arms because it depends on how the mount is. And I found this out when I did the awning on my RV. Well, I didn't do it. I paid somebody to do it for me. Merrigan's Roadrunner RV in Tucson, as a matter of fact. But they got the wrong arms on mine and had to get arms in overnight. But anyway, know the length of the arm. But yeah, you can go to the manufacturer's website. Dometic is a good one for that. I think there's another awning manufacturer out there that's just escaping me right now. But go to their website. You can absolutely generally find parts for your awnings. Mostly because they're real expensive. A decent 20-foot awning is going to cost you $2,000. So you can pretty much put that in the bank if you can find that arm. Your other option might be to call or get in touch with a used or a junk RV dealer, like a Cola up in Missouri here, not far from me, I think they're in Ozark, Missouri. Memory serves me correctly. This is about 60 miles from here. In fact, when I leave to head home, I might go the route that'll take me by Cola so I can stop there. I might do that and maybe see if I can just shoot a quick video while I'm going through there. But yeah, it's one of the largest used junk parts RV places in the world up there at Cola. There's another one out in Florida that the name escapes me, but somebody in the chat window might know who they are. Okay, Bernie writes back about his TV. Once it goes off, it's all she wrote. Until it cools off or it sets for an hour or two or three, and then it will turn back on. Then that's definitely in the power supply. There's definitely a component getting hot, and like I said, it's a disposable economy. You might be able to find somebody that could fix it for you. Um, well, you're probably more likely just going to have to go get a new TV. Um, uh, that's an unfortunate situation, but that just seems to be the way it goes. It costs so much to get a guy to fix it. If it costs you $250 to get your TV fixed, and it costs you $260 to buy a brand new one, well, it's false economy to fix the old one. And now I'm totally all about recycling and minimizing the amount of garbage we generate. And, one of the things that gives me heartburn is throwing away electronics. In fact, I'm going to let a secret out here. I have a box of old electronics at home that I just don't have the heart to throw away. I've had probably 5 different cell phones that, they get to a point where, they're just not usable anymore. And I just can't throw them away. I don't know what it is. I have an old BlackBerry. I have an old candy bar, what they used to call the Nokia candy bars. If you've had cell phones for a while, you know what I'm talking about. They were about that long. Some might call that hoarding. Sam Jones says, yes, it's the front power shades. Yeah, Sam, something got knocked loose. Sounds like a wire got knocked loose. Why did you change all the fuses? Question mark. Uh, okay, so Ivan Josie comes back and says, once diagnostic was conducted, they attribute the problem to losing connection to TCM. Transmission control module. Okay. You know, what's his name? Tom. Tom has been he went through a hell of a lot of trouble with his. They thought it was a TCM. They thought it was the ECM. It turned out to be a bad battery ground cable. Hopefully yours turns out to be something as simple as that. Ivan, Josie. You're welcome, Sam. Yeah, Tom Downey says Cat has a lawsuit over this now. Yeah, Caterpillar on their heavy equipment was one of those that was named. I know John Deere, Apple. There were several others that were doing that to lock up the repair business, the parts and repair business. Okay, let's see here. Hello, FG. My day is going awesome, although it was really hot today. 107 was the heat index. It was 97 and the humidity was like 66% or something like that. So, yeah, we're hanging out in the AC for sure. Yeah, it's Dometic. Okay, great. Eat, travel, happy. You should be able to go to the Dometic website and order the arm. You might have to go to like RecPro. They're an RV, big RV supplier. I have bought several things from RecPro. I bought the roofing material and the glue and stuff for when I replaced my RV roof through RecPro. And they're a great company. They're really Johnny on the spot. So you might even just call RecPro and see what they can do for you. But yeah, they've got a good website and they have a lot of Dometic parts. They specialize in RV parts and repairs, or RV parts, I should say. Thank you, Two Feathers. Two Feathers says, sorry she's late. I was making dinner. Sorry, I'm late. Sorry, I didn't mean to genderize that. I was making dinner. I made enough for all of us because I knew you'd be hungry. Just follow your nose. Yeah, well, I always say it's 7 p.m. Mountain Time because really most of the time I'm on Mountain Time, but it's 8 o'clock Mountain Time here now. It's 8 o'clock Central Time. I'll get it right yet. And I ate about 6 o'clock. Uh, I've been feeding my brother for the last 11 weeks. Bernie comes back and says, "Yeah, I have a feeling it was the TV. Wasn't sure. Do you have a suggestion on what TV is the best? We have a 30 amp RV. Yeah, I think Vizio's fine. Um, I personally have a Samsung and what's the old one? See, what I ended up doing was, of course, I had in my RV, I had two TVs, and I replaced the old 20-inch Sony. The old that was the old glass picture tube type, the old analog TV. That was a while ago, and I put up I don't remember. I think that was might have been a Vizio. And then I actually replaced the TV in the bedroom and moved the TV from the front back to the back and bought a new one for the front. And that was a Samsung. I don't remember what the older one was. It might have been a Samsung too. But I've always been happy with Samsung. I think Vizio's fine too. Uh, the problem is that you got to keep in mind that as RVs roll down the road, it's pretty rough on equipment, particularly electronic equipment that doesn't like to have a lot of shocks and jarring going on. And so yeah, the stuff like that can happen. Um, but yeah, I would go Samsung. Vizio, I think, is fine. Either one of those, I wouldn't hesitate to buy. Amos Carmichael, hello, welcome. He says, "Hi, thank you. I have a 2015 Wildwood that has a small tear in the top corner where it slides into the rail. Is there an easy fix?" Um, what is the tear in? I'm not getting that. Is it in the roof of your slide? Um, yeah, there's an easy fix if it's your roof. Pick up some Eternabond tape and you can use that. They don't call it a Eternabond for nothing. Once you put it on there, it stays on there, but it will seal up your roof if that's what you're concerned about. If you give me more detail, oh, it's in the awning. Okay, um, awnings, they make a special vinyl tape that you can use that's clear. Um, I think they actually call it awning repair tape. Um, that's an excellent opportunity to remind you that I am an Amazon affiliate, and there is a link in the description below to my Amazon store. Uh, you pay the same price, I get a little bit of a commission. And so if you'll go to my Amazon store and then just click into my Amazon store, and you don't have to buy stuff right off my Amazon store, off of my store, which is RVing and that kind of stuff. But if you click through my store and then go buy something else, I'll get credit for that. Now, again, I'll mention I don't know who buys what. I just see that somebody bought a box of borax, or they might buy, shoes. I mean, it doesn't matter. But I think it's called vinyl awning repair tape, and it's a special reinforced clear tape that is made for vinyl awnings, and that would be what I would use. Um, and I would stick with one of the major name brand manufacturers. 3M comes to mind. Um, you know, uh, if you get a good quality repair tape like that, and it's clear, so you don't even see it that's on the awning. But I'm almost positive it's called awning repair tape or vinyl awning repair tape. And that's what I would do is I would use some repair tape on it. And I would do it now because if you got into even the slightest amount of wind and there's already a tear in it, it could just completely come off. Oh, so Two Feathers is having beef stew. Oh, that sounds delicious. I had spaghetti. Chuck C asks, using tape to attach a flex solar panel to a roof, a good idea? Yeah. There's a lot of guys that do that. They take that high bonding tape, what they call that, HBT or HRT, or I can't remember it, but they get that high tack, high bond tape. It's really tough. Again, another 3M product. And yeah, they mount. I've seen people mount solar panels directly to the roof that way. Now, I wouldn't recommend that with a solar panel, but a flexible panel, absolutely. Yeah, get yourself some of that high tack, high bond tape, and you should be in good shape. I've seen it done before, definitely. Okay. GPS, hi, welcome to the channel. He says, hi, occasionally I need a 75-foot, 30 amp power cord. Can I use a 50-foot plus a 25-foot, or should I have a 75-foot cord made? Will this cause power issues? Thanks. You're welcome. And it's a great question. The longer the cord, the less voltage will get to your RV. If you have things that are voltage sensitive, like some electronics, it could cause you a problem. But your basic microwave, those sorts of things, probably not going to cause too much of a problem. Except that if the voltage, let's see, let me put this in the simplest terms I can. Every foot of wire you lose a little bit of voltage in because of the resistance of the wire, right? So when the electrons move through the wire, there's resistance. And the further they have to go, the more resistance they encounter. So when you go from 50 feet to 75 feet, that's really a 50% increase in the amount of resistance. These are spitballing numbers. We could actually do the math. But by the time you get to the end of a 75-foot extension cord, if you're getting 118 volts at the pedestal, you might only be getting 103, 105 at the RV. The way to get around this is to go with a little larger gauge wire. Larger gauge wire has a little bit less resistance. And on a 75-foot run with uh, 30 amps of service, I would probably go with number 10 wires. Okay. Number 10 should get you, uh, you know, uh, a pretty good amount of power out on a 75-foot cord. And yeah, if you're going to have to make one, you might as well make a new one. That's not going to be cheap though. 10 gauge extension cord, what they call equipment hookup cords. They're going to be a little expensive. You're probably into that for, gosh, I don't even know. I haven't priced that kind of stuff for a long time. So, but yeah, you're going to want to get a cord that has fatter wire, okay, to be able to get more voltage at the RV. Plus, every connection you go through adds a little bit more resistance, which could drop that voltage down a little bit over a long run. So, anyway, you might hear me if you tune into the chat occasionally say that you want to put your batteries as close to your inverter as possible because that cable length, uh, every foot or inch of cable takes a little bit more voltage off the circuit. So I hope that answers your question, GPS. Um, I I guess you could try it, okay, but uh, if you start to run into trouble, like some of your electronics aren't you're working properly. Um, there's something else to keep in mind too is that I don't want to get too technical about this, but in your RV, let's say you have a 100-watt TV and a 100-watt TV at 120 volts, okay, which is, let's just use that as an example, might draw, what would that be? 5 amps approximately. Okay, and this is just math off the top of my head. But at 100 volts, it might take 6 amps. And when you start adding that up, 6 amps for the TV, a microwave that normally might take 12 amps, taking 14, an air conditioner, same issue, that usually runs on 12 to 15 amps, might take 18 to 20. But you start adding that up, you can see where we're going. We're going to be over 30 amps pretty fast if your voltage drop from the pedestal to your RV or wherever you're plugging it in is too great. So I hope that makes sense. I would go with the larger cable, number 10 wires at a minimum, number 8 if you can afford it. Um, and I actually personally have a longer extension cable. I have a 30-foot that I built out a number 8 wire for mine, but I also have 50 amp service. And that's a good point, Robert. And thanks for mentioning that. This will be back, circling back to Bernie's question about his TV. And yeah, get yourself a can of air, and as best you can, spray canned air all through the back of that TV where you can see there's vent holes. That'll help blow any dust out. That might help with the cooling if it's got a lot of dust in there. There's cooling fans, or through natural convective cooling might not be working correctly. But that's a great one and a cheap fix. You can go buy a can of air for $2 or $3 and use that canned air. So thanks for Robert. That's a great suggestion. Eat Travel Happy says, wish we were closer to Cola. Thanks for the info, especially knowing the length so that we get the right one. You're very welcome, Eat Travel Happy. Amos Carmichael says he thinks it's an LCI. Uh, Sorry, I'm just dropped all my comments here. Just a minute. Okay. FG says, how would I reinforce a 28-foot dual axle fifth wheel that's starting to split in main structural points throughout the entire RV? Ooh. Oh, that's a loaded question. Is it rusted? Um, that's a serious problem. Is it rusty? FG, you're welcome. Eat Travel Happy. Tom Downey says he has three TCUs that I will give you have an address. Huh? Walmart? Question mark. Did I miss a comment somewhere? Did I get lost? It wouldn't be the first time. Oh, FG. Okay. He follows up. Specifically in the front bedroom area of the fifth, above the hitch, front bottom corners are splitting open and dry rotted. Do I need to strip open up the entire front end? Yeah. Well, let me be honest with you. How old is this fifth wheel, FG? Um, because if you're going to do the work yourself, then it's definitely worth trying to get in there and repair it if you got the time and basic construction skills. But it sounds to me like you probably got some water leak, some water leaking in somewhere, or did at some point. And yeah, uh, when you say the structure, do you mean the body itself or the frame is rotting and falling apart? Oh, Bernie McInerney is in Virginia. Thanks, Bernie. Great. You're very welcome for the help. Um, Glad to have you on tonight. Oh, there you go. Carl Jones has a comment on that. Awning repair. He says his awning is black and he used the black Turnabon. It's held up very well. Yeah, that stuff is bulletproof. I mean, it is tough, tough tape. And I didn't realize they made it in black, but that makes perfect sense. You're welcome. You're very welcome, Amos. Glad to have you in the chat tonight. Oh, TCUs go by part number and application. Okay, I got you. I got you. Sorry. Okay, Ivan Josie asked, what type of preventative maintenance checks can I perform on the arms of the awning? On the arms of the awning, they were partially failing during our travels. Well, I recommend that you get a good dry lube. WD-40. I like CRC silicone. Liquid Wrench makes a great silicone. But anyway, any dry lube, and just go around at every pivot point, every place there's a point where that thing bends or moves. Shoot it with some dry lube. Up at the where the tube is, uh, shoot that really well. Every one of those hinge points in the arms and stuff, shoot them really well. Check them and make sure they're not super loose. Um, you know, but the basic preventative maintenance that I do on mine is I just dry lube all the pivot points everywhere, where it mounts at the bottom of the RV, spray that with some dry lube and do that a couple times a year. You should be in good shape. That's the way I maintain mine. Yeah, exactly. Tom Downey mentions that contractors have heavy gauge extension cords. Yeah, I actually did a little bit of work. Um, oh gosh, this has been 7 years ago now, something like that, maybe eight, where I was I was doing some consulting work, and I had a free weekend, and I have a friend that is has a band, and so I went out and helped them set up, and I was helping the lighting guys get set up, and they had some really heavy duty cords for their stuff. They were all LEDs, and LEDs are notoriously sensitive to low voltage. Um, they'll start to flicker when the voltage gets too low because of the way they're designed and built. But they had some really big, heavy extension cables, electric cables. Thanks, Steve Linder. It's great to have you in the chat tonight. He says, enjoying the show tonight. TR, great questions and answers as always. Appreciate you. You're very welcome, Tom. Steve, I'm happy to have you in the chat with us tonight. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, John Besnek. He says, yeah, 10 3-stranded copper SO cords. Exactly. Actually, on a 30 amp, assuming it's just 110, it could be 220. I better shut up. I get in trouble making assumptions. That makes an ass out of you and me. Um, okay, so FG says, here's a dumb question someone asked me. Asking for a friend, are we? Can I use 4-wire gauged RV hookup cord to tie into a power line pole street light line? I couldn't believe it. He was really serious about doing it. No. Okay, here's the first thing. Street lights are not 110 or 240. They might be 277 or 480. And you tie into that, you better make sure that your life insurance is paid and you have your will put together correctly. Because if you hook that up to your RV, you're going to smoke it and you might kill yourself. Now, in some cases, yeah, if there's step down to 110 on some street lights, that may be the case. But in a lot of cases, street lamps are, they run higher voltage. And yeah, there are certain way you can hook them up and make it work and all this and that. You're going to find an internet expert who's going to say he can do it and all this and that. But I'll tell you what, here's the deal. I like to give advice that the average guy can use. Okay. I watched a video from a great content creator and fellow RVer. I won't name him, but he's an electrical engineer and he put a battery out of an electric vehicle in his RV. And he had to build all this fancy stuff to be able to keep it charged right and not burn up and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's a really cool project that nobody but an electrical engineer could manage and have and run. Okay. You got to have solutions that the average everyday fellow can run. And hooking up to a street light, although might make sense somewhere. Let's go back to the discussion when we were just having about long extension cords. The average street light's 30 feet in the air. You got 30 feet of cord right there. And then unless you're parked right there by the street light, which is how much fun is it to park underneath the street light for crying out loud, you're going to be another 20 or 30 feet away from that. So you got 60, 70 feet of wire. Yeah. Okay, so it could possibly be done, but why? Who would do it? Okay, I'll get off my soapbox, but I'll remind you that I have a great website with lots of tips and tricks over there at trboland.com. If you'd like to share the content that you're finding tonight or share it on Facebook or with your friends, I really do appreciate that. Those thumbs up are very much welcomed and they help rank the video up so more people get to see it. We've kind of gotten into a groove here. We see about 30 to 35 maximum viewers during the live stream, which is great. But then I get about 5, almost 600 views on the video. And I'm not here for the views. I'm not here for any of that crap. I don't care about it. I rarely look at that stuff. But I am here to help the new RVers or even, bring the community together. And because, guys like Tom And John and these guys, they're all kind of old and gray like me. They got great ideas and they've been doing this a while. And so it's really for the newbies, the new folks that have just gotten into RVing to be able to come here and ask questions from old curmudgeons that'll help you save time and money down the road so you don't have to make the same damn mistakes we did in the 40 odd years I've been RVing. Yep, great. And that's the perfect thing. Bernie answers back to Robert. He says he'll try that first. And I think Robert made an excellent suggestion to try some canned air to blow out the power supplies on that. It might fix it. Okay, Two Feathers asking this in a sensitive way. But with the border situation, will it be safe to boondock in Arizona this winter? I'm a newbie, so it's on my mind. You should be fine. Here's the deal. I spent 5 years wintering in Arizona, 4 years in Tucson, and 1 year at Picacho Peak. And my favorite thing to do is just to go out and explore. I like to hunt rocks. I'm into plants. That's a story for another day, but my degrees are in biology and ecology, and I'm a plant guy. I did remote sensing was what I did for my thesis work. So that's what gets me going is, and I love the desert, especially the Sonoran Desert down around Tucson. I would go out and drive around these deserts all day, and the only people I ever saw were Border Patrol people. I never saw immigrants, illegal immigrants. I had the Black Hawk helicopter come chase me down a couple times, which will scare the pea water out of you when you're sitting there trying to take a macro photo of a cactus, and the next thing you know, there's a Black Hawk helicopter 80 feet above your head. Okay. I've had that happen before. In fact, I got some great photos. I wish I was home. I'd bring these photos up real quick because I got a lot of photos and some video of this Blackhawk. Because once they realized that I was, I guess just a desert rat or whatever, I wasn't some kind of coyote, they were flying around me and we were having some fun and it turned out really fun. So I never saw any illegals. They don't, here's my take on it. They don't want to mess with RVers. Okay. They don't want to get in any trouble if they can avoid it. Because if they get in trouble, then they've raised the eye of law enforcement and they're going to get caught. Depending upon where you boondock, you're not going to find a place typically in Arizona that there aren't going to be other boondockers around. Okay, so here's some basic tips for boondocking and boondocking safely. First off, know who your neighbors are. When you get to a spot, go out for a little drive around or a walk around and see who's out and about. Okay? And if they look friendly like me, go over and say hi to them because there's nothing like community. First, you're probably going to meet some really cool people. Second, if you're gone, they're going to keep an eye on your rig for you and vice versa. And mention that. Hey, if I take off, will you keep an eye on my rig? Or if you're taking off, go swing by their campsite. Say, hey, I'm taking off. Do you need anything from town? Keep an eye on my rig, that kind of stuff. So know your surroundings, know the people around you, watch when people come and go. I wouldn't worry about theft, okay? I think you're more likely to get stuff stolen from you if you're in an RV park in town than if you are out boondocking. Thieves are lazy, dumb crooks, okay? They're lazy. They're not going to drive 40 miles out into the desert to steal some bikes from an RVer. They're going to drive 6 miles in town to the RV park where they know they can hit 10 or 12 RVs all at once and pick up a bunch of bikes. So that's my thought processes on that. Don't let boondocking scare you. Just make friends with the people around you and you'll be just fine. If you're in the Quartzsite area, there's going to be plenty of neighbors. Almost all over where you're going to want to go, BLM type land in Arizona, you're going to find people, snowbirds, people in the winter that are down there, and just make friends with your neighbors. That's all you really need to do. And then I wouldn't worry about it. Okay? I wouldn't worry about it. I hope that helps Two Feathers. Okay, so FG It sounds like you got a real problem there. And if you're handy at all, you might be able to repair it yourself. But it sounds to me like it's coming apart. My guess is it's had kind of a rough life. Remember, when RVs go down the road, they're rocking and they're racking. And so they're moving like this and they're moving back and forth, as you're going down the road. Not only are they bouncing, but things are racking and rolling, especially when you go off road or you go up an old, dirt road to a forest campground or something like that. Things are getting racked and older RVs just start to come apart unless they're extremely well built and maintained. Yes, you can rebuild it yourself, but it sounds to me like you may have to take it down to the frame. When I talk about the frame, I mean the frame of the coach, not the frame of the RV, not the rolling chassis. Okay. And strip it all down and just rebuild it. Um, if you got the time and the motivation to do it, I think you could probably do it, but you're probably talking about a lot of work. I wish I had a better answer, but I don't. Um, I'm sorry, but yeah, body and frame starting to sag and lean. You got, yeah, I'm sorry, FG. That's just not a good situation. Um, yeah, it's not a good situation. John says he shoots WD-40 into the holes in the end of the tubes to lube the springs, makes them work so much better. Absolutely. Yeah, you'll notice that in those awnings, there's going to be holes. And keep in mind, that there's a spring inside there to help roll it up when it comes in. When you're pushing your awning out, it's stretching that spring out or it's coiling it up, it's winding it tight. And it's not unlike a spring like you would see in your garage. If you look over your garage door, you see those coil springs, they're probably this big around. It's the same kind of concept. When you're winding it out, it's rolling that spring up so that it's got tension on it. And then when you bring the awning in, that tension helps bring that awning in. And so spraying some WD-40 in the ends of the tubes, the tube is the awning itself, right? The awning tube is not a bad idea at all. Yeah, Carl Jones says they make a dry graphite lube that works extremely well and doesn't leave a residue or attracts dirt. Exactly. And we used graphite a lot back when I was an engineer in radio. In a past life, I was in radio, broadcasting, I should say, but radio. And I was basically operations manager for a group of stations, and we used a lot of graphite, especially like on turntables back in the day. They had a little bearing, that the turntable turned on, and they were typically lubricated with graphite rather than oil or something like that because it attracts dirt and dust and stuff. How are we doing on time? Wow, the hour has flown by tonight. Whew, my goodness. Okay, Ivan Josie RV Journey asks, you might have mentioned this already, but I'm curious. When are you going to start traveling again? How's Dad? Okay. Um, just as soon as I reasonably can. I still have my Class A. I was going to sell it, but I think I might have convinced myself to keep it. Particularly, have you guys been hearing about the Death Head? I've been starting calling it the Death Head, and I think I mentioned this a little bit last week, but it's all the rage right now. All these newer coaches are coming out, and within 6 months, the DEF, which is the diesel exhaust fluid that helps it make emissions, these these parts of it are failing, and now you can't get parts because they're failing. Anyway, my '04 and Carl's and a couple of the other guys in here with '04s are happy that we don't have DEF, and my coach is built much better. The other thing is that since was it Winnebago bought Newmar a year and a half or so ago. In fact, I just read that the president of Newmar is retiring this year. I'm not surprised. He's got millions of dollars in his pocket now since Winnebago bought him. And their quality has gone down. And I've been hearing a lot of complaints about customer service and technical support. But that's just the nature of the beast, I guess. It's unfortunate. When am I going to start traveling again? Um, well, I didn't answer that, did I? Other than to say as soon as possible. I'm going to keep my RV. but I'm still planning on getting a slide-in camper for a pickup and doing some expedition type camping, right? Going out for a week or so and then coming back. But I have it in my heart and my mind that I'm going to go back to snowbirding and bust out of Idaho in the winter and head south again. Arizona, probably back to Tucson, probably back to the same old RV park I was going to because it's so nice and centrally located and easy to get to. And there's all kinds of things about it. It's under new ownership though, so I think the prices went up considerably. But I think I'll probably go back to snowbirding when I can. Um, I can't give you an exact date, but when I can, as soon as I can, I do miss it. You're welcome, Bernie. You're very welcome for our time, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thanks. Thanks. I hope we helped you with your TV problem tonight. Tom Downey says he has an extension cord that is made for running equipment. Yeah. Uh, Large contractors, of course, guys who build commercial buildings, they've got those spiders or whatever they call them, those power distribution pedestals, right? So they'll have a huge cable, running from a breaker panel somewhere that takes power out in the middle of an area, that might have, a 100 amp cable on it, and then it goes out to a bunch of 20 amps outlets. And yeah, those things are pretty common. Uh, Tom Downey says our neighbor blew a transformer, 10,000 doing this. He got a bill. Well, your neighbor blew a transformer? How is it that it's his responsibility? That's part of the utilities equipment. That's not a part of his responsibility. I know that when I built my house, not the one I'm in Idaho now, but the one before, that was, it was a green field. It had never been, there wasn't a house or anything there. I had to bring power and everything. I had to drill a well, do septic and all that. And but I didn't pay for the transformer. I paid to get it hooked up. It's about 4,200 bucks, but I didn't pay for that transformer. So I'm confused. Why would they, unless it was his fault it blew up? But even then, that's craziness. Yeah. FG says, yeah, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, LO. I told him, yeah, if you want a really expensive fireworks show, yeah, that could make it would hooking up uh, to the utility power could be fatal. Tom says he's been camping since 1962. Yeah, the first time I remember camping was at 4 years old. That would have been 64 for me. And I remember going camping with my parents to Yellowstone in a VW Beetle with a cooler and stuff strapped to the top of the Beetle. Oh, Tom Downey says they're considering selling everything and going with the Nordhaven big boat home. Yeah, I do watch a couple of boating channels. Gone with the Winds, White Spot Pirates, um, Shuffed Adventures. They're all boating, sailboating channels. Um, a big boat like that's just it's what do they call a boat? A hole in the water you throw money in. Boats and RVs are sixes. They all take maintenance and they all have their pluses and minuses. But I wouldn't mind sailing in the Caribbean and, down around, you know, South America and down to some of those areas, Mexico. I think that'd be great. Um, but, you know, you're traveling on water, you're traveling on land. It's all about the same, it seems to me. The more remote you are, the better. Absolutely agree with that. Older RV is the worst it gets. Yeah, especially older um, RVs that haven't been maintained very well. Uh, I don't worry so much about mine because it's been extremely well maintained in the body and stuff like that. And now it's got the motor, and I've done a lot of work on the chassis. And Newmars in the day, And they probably still are, but at least from the era that I have, and there's others out there that have built extremely good quality. Airstream would be a perfect example of that, right? Airstreams from the 50s and 60s still fetch, 50, 60, $70,000, and they still roll down the road, provided they were maintained. And I've seen some and watched some channels where they've done Airstream restorations where they take the Airstream completely off the frame and those sorts of things. But you got something there that's going to have some value. An older fifth wheel like that that's been racked. It sounds like it's coming apart. It's got dry rot. It sounds to me like a ranch hand vehicle to me, where you go out and park it on the ranch and you let the cowpunch live in it. You're welcome, Two Feathers. She says that will be her second trip, and you are so welcome. I agree with you, Tom. And Tom has rebuilt many airplanes, but sagging, leaning, it's over. Yeah, it's there's not much you can do, but rebuild it from the frame up. Oh, John Besnick's. That's a good point, John. We were talking about lubing your awning and the proper way to maintain your awning. And that WD-40, that's right. It helps stop the rust on the awning springs in the tube. It keeps them working better for sure. And yeah, same with all the hinge points. It keeps them working better, and it'll make your awning work and last a lot longer. Oh, I gotta catch up here. Crystal Fight. Oh, great to have you back, Crystal. Thank you so much. You are very welcome. Thank you for coming and checking in. She says once again, great information all around. Thanks for what you do. You're welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate it. Big trawler boat. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Tim Myers on the countdown. 16 days left. Retiring at the end of the month. I bet you're excited, Tom. I mean, Tim. Sorry. Ivan and Josie, it's great to spend time with you, and keep us updated on how you're doing with the RV that you got had to leave in Virginia. That's a drag. Good night to you. Oh yeah, well I guess that's true, Tom. He was mentioning about how did his what was your neighbor doing hooking up his own transformer? That's a question I have. Carl Jones is agreeing with me about keeping an older rig. He says, "Yeah, you'll be way ahead keeping your Class A, especially all the work and upgrades I've done over the years. Yeah, because I've got it with LED and solar and lithium batteries, and I've just got it to where I like it, and I can boondock in it for weeks on end and never have to go to town." But he says there's no way that he would buy a new one. QC has fallen through the floor over the past few years. Yeah, I totally would agree with that. Okay, sorry to catching up here. Okay, I have the time and motivation. I have the framing experience, but have no idea what I need to do, replace what, how far into it do I go, what would be the best lightweight material, etc. Yeah, FG. Well, a lot. I could spend a whole hour chatting about what would be the best to do. My suggestion would be to how badly, I mean, if you're going to rebuild it, you might as well just consider pulling it off the frame and just, reframing it. If the outside is in decent shape and you just have open seams and stuff, sometimes you can pull them back into square. But you're using 2x4s, you're using metal studs if you can get good metal studs. It's typical construction stuff. There's nothing really special or fancy about that stuff. Um, but yeah, as far as what to keep, it would be if it's dry rotted or rotten or it won't hold a screw or anything like that. I mean, it's pretty standard. Yeah, I could spend a lot of time on it, and I'll consider. I'll put that on my list. So we'll chat some more about that next week. We're getting after 9, and I usually like to run these about an hour and 15. And oh, your super chat is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, FG. Let me see if I can catch up here real quick. Yeah, Tom Downey says he started in his MC and a tent uh, with kids. Yeah, yeah, we tented. We were tent camping. I remember. I guess it was probably in the oh, it was the early '70s. My dad ended up buying a 14-foot travel trailer, and then we started going in the travel trailer. But us kids, me and my brother, we'd camp outside in tents. We'd put our tents up outside. Mom and Dad could sleep in the trailer, and we slept outside. Two Feathers says in Ketchikan they used to have a lot of houseboats. That was always my dream. Yeah, I think houseboats would be cool. I visited a friend of mine who lives on a boat. It's a big boat. He's got like two Cat 330 horsepower engines in it. I don't know how big the thing is, but it's huge. But it's moored up in Seattle where he lives. He lives on this boat. I don't think he's been out at least, in under power for gosh, I don't know how long. But when I was up there, there was a visiting him. There was a whole slip. I think that's what they call it. It's one of those things. But it was along the edge. There was nothing but these cute little houseboats. I mean, just really modern looking. Lots of windows and decks and all kinds of really cool stuff. And there was probably 6 or 7 of them all along this slip down there in Seattle where he was moored out. And it looked like it would be cool. Hi, Clint Seymour. Thank you for your great question. And I think the Teflon's fine. Teflon, I like the silicone, but I think Teflon's fine because it's a dry lube. It doesn't attract any dirt. And yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think you have any problems using Teflon. Excuse me for just 1 second. My eyes are playing tricks on me. Okay. So I think Teflon's good stuff. Yeah. Thanks, John. Great to have you in the chat tonight. And hopefully we'll see you next week. Yeah, Tom, he won't do that again. Uh, you know, I think Whidbey Island is amazing. I've been there several times myself. I wish Aaron was in tonight, our normal moderator. He spent a lot of time up in that area. But yeah, Dayton, it would be. That's a good long trip. You have family in Freeland. Excellent. MV Freedom on YouTube. Okay, Tom, I'll look into them. Thank you, FG. Thank you for your super chat. And yeah, we'll chat some more about this next week. I'll collect my thoughts and put some notes down so I'm not rambling so much. But yeah, we can chat about it. I mean, it's not impractical to rebuild it if you got the time and the inclination and the motivation. You could rebuild it. I mean, there's a hell of a lot of satisfaction that comes from getting something like that and making it your own. All right. So, did I miss anything? Let me slip back here real quick. All right. Okay, so we're going to call her good for tonight. Unless anybody else has any questions or comments, throw them over in the chat. I'll take a sip here. Okay, great. Had a great time. The hours flew by, and that's always a good sign. I hope I was able to help folks out tonight. A reminder, if you found value in this video, give me that thumbs up. Those are really valuable. Visit our website, trbolin.com. Support us through our Amazon store. That's always greatly appreciated. And just basically coming and chatting with us on Tuesday nights is awesome. It's so much fun to interact with you. I hope I can help you down the road. Hope I can help you not make mistakes that I've made or some of our, regular chatters and viewers are making. But with that, I think we're going to call it a good night. So I greatly enjoyed it. I hope to see you next Tuesday Fingers crossed that I'm able to do it. But for right now, we're going to call her good. Thanks for watching. I sure do appreciate it. Till we get together next time. Peace. Bye. Thanks, Tom, Tim, Robert, Two Feathers, Eat Travel. You guys are awesome. It's great to have you in. Good night.